Welcome to Lincolnshire in the United Kingdom, home to the majestic Lincoln Cathedral, one of Europe's finest Gothic structures. But on the outskirts of the East Midlands town, you'll find relaxing countryside, serene farmlands, and a vibrant ecosystem in a country that has a vibrant history from around the world. But hidden away out of view sits the home of British karting. This is the Paul Fletcher International Kart Circuit, and it plays host to the Champions of the Future, Round 5, the finale. Year of opening, 1994, event record set by Noah Montero with a 54.394. That was in dry racing conditions. For the rest of the weekend, it's been raining, so no one's been able to beat that time. A closer look at the circuit itself, though, 170-metre start-finish straight. It's a 200-metre back straight out of the Lichfield Bridge down in towards hairpin number 1. Total track length, 1,382, 8 metres wide and 6 metres of elevation as you go up the banking over the bridge. The track, though, 15 turns out on the circuit. They span across the 1.3-kilometre layout, 8 turns to the right, 7 to the left, and the 2 hairpins, being doubly named Hairpin 1 and Hairpin 2 out there. Overtaking opportunities, well, pretty much everywhere on the circuit here. It's a demanding track. You see them into the Bruno Ferrari S's, through the banking, over the Lichfield Bridge, Hairpin 1, Hairpin 2, the Fullerton S's, Bobby Gain Corner, and the Mike Wilson Complex. You see them all the way throughout the entirety of the 15 turns out there, which means if you're a driver in the lead, trust me, unless you got the waft, you ain't getting away. The track, though, very, very fast down these back straights. You can reach around 77 miles an hour, around 123 kilometers an hour into the braking zone, into hairpin 1 and into the flat-out Bruno Ferrari S's down in towards turn number 1. Average speed of around 91 kilometers an hour. This translates to around 57 miles an hour. And when you're racing on a circuit that's only 8 meters wide and you're about an inch off the floor, trust me, that feels like 157 miles an hour. I'll be commentator Anthony Jordan over the course of the proceedings today. We've got many races to get through, including, of course, the 4 Superheats and, of course, the 2 finals coming up later on today. Yesterday, however, was a very busy day. Now, you are seeing karts out on track. Don't fret, that's not the racing. That is morning warm-up. That is just about to end in momentarily. The next race that is coming up, though, is the first race of the day. It is OK Junior Superheat 1, 11 laps, 15 kilometres, the longest race the junior drivers will have done this weekend. And all over the course of the weekend, well, it's been a bit topsy-turvy, I would say, in the categories because, well, there's not been a single dominant winner in the juniors. We caught up with the highlights from yesterday. Well, yesterday in the highlights, it certainly was an interesting one with the rain falling down. But at the end of the day, James Anagnostianis would be the man standing on the top spot in Superheat 1, taking 3 wins out of 6 races over the course of the second day of racing, much preferring those wet conditions. Scott Marsh was the next driver to start on pole position. He will be in Superheat 2 tomorrow. Eluded a qualifying heat win, but with his results not dropping outside of the top 5, he was certainly a driver to be reckoned with going into today's racing. Filippo Sala, again, was another driver certainly delivering over the course of the wet weather conditions, taking 3 wins, a 12th third as well. So certainly a driver that you had to watch out for over the course of the day. Jarrett Clark as well for the Forza Racing team was another driver not to be reckoned with. The 41 certainly pushing his way through, but only claiming 1 qualifying heat win. Same could be said for Zach Green and Rocco Coronel. Those two certainly didn't give each other much love lost out on the track with this incredible defensive driving and incredible kart control from Green. Certainly put them in a prime position over the course of the day, starting inside that top 5 for today. Well, those races are going to be coming up very, very soon, but yesterday's conditions are very similar to what we see today right here, right now. But the only thing that's different is, yes, it's low cloud cover. However, the rain seems to have subsided a little bit. And already in the morning stage, we're starting to see a little bit of a dry racing line form out there. So that's going to make it nice and interesting for the field out here, because you might see a little bit of a half and half right here. Some drivers choosing wet, some drivers choosing slicks. We just don't know, but we'll have to wait and see, because right now the track is wet. It's definitely going to be wet tyres out there for the first OK Junior Superheat that's going to be coming out. It's when we get into the second races, the third races of the day, that's where it's going to start to get a little bit interesting for drivers to see what they want to do, especially if the rain holds off. They'll be absolutely fine. There on your screen is Filippo Sala, who will be starting on the front row for this race. And judging by that picture that I'm seeing there, now they have chosen to switch sides, because it's James Anagnosiadis who actually starts on pole position for this one. But he has decided to switch onto the even side of the grid. And if you are the pole sitter, you have that right. You are allowed to do so. There is James Anagnosiadis. He is your pole sitter for this one, and there he sits on the second spot on the grid. So very interesting that he's chosen to go for that line, and I can understand a little bit why, because there is that drier line that's formed on the outside going in towards turn one, but then of course it cuts in, so a little bit tricky. But James Anagnosiadis over the course of this weekend certainly been a driver to look out for. But I think his best weekend so far this season. Shaky day in the dry conditions, 2 6th places and a second. But yesterday in the horrible, rainy, wet conditions, dominated 3 qualifying heat wins out of 3 over the course of the day. There is a look at the rain radar. Now, well, as usual in every single summer's day in the UK, the entirety of the UK is covered in rain. However, that is moving a little bit more westerly from where we are. It's come from the east, it's moving west, which means that, judging by that radar, we should not have any rain at all from now until the end of the day. But it's the UK, ladies and gentlemen. That's never the case, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. There is Dean Hugendorn starting on the second row of the grid. The Fusion Motorsport driver has had a relatively decent weekend, has come away with a qualifying heat win, did that in qualifying heat 1 at the beginning of the weekend. Second, fourth places. Worst result has only been a P6. So again, he's always been in and around that area. There is your race director, Martin Bean, getting ready to start proceedings. You've got Dan Ashton in the middle, and you've got one of our stewards there, Chris Lambret, on the left-hand side, all ready to watch the racing. And they know they're on TV because there's a big TV screen in the middle of the circuit, and they can see themselves. There is Noah Baglin, our pole sitter from time qualifying. And, well, Noah Baglin, again, bit of a shaky weekend so far. Has never been outside the top 5. Only 1 qualifying heat win, though. That came at the end of the qualifying heats phase yesterday. His very last race, he managed to put that on the top spot. So, again, keeping a very close eye on that one. Their confirmation, the number 67, James Anagnosiadis, has swapped sides. So, confirmation of that. He has got that right. And like I say, it is understandable. There is that dry line on the outside line. It cuts back in, though. So that's really going to put the drivers now on the inside on the back foot. There is Archie Lovett for the Forza Racing team on the Esprit chassis. 11th in timed qualifying. Also, 1 qualifying heat win. He won that in his first qualifying heat. And again, has always been inside the top 10. His worst result being a P8. So again, very strong performances from the Briton out there. There is a look at some of the hard-working marshals out on the circuit. Of course, we could not go racing without the dedicated Orange Army. And here at Trent Valley Kart Club, they do always provide some of the best from the UK. And over the course of this weekend, they have been very, very busy. Yesterday was a busy day with recoveries at the wet conditions. It was a pretty dreadful day for many of the marshals, but they certainly delivered over the course of it. There's the grandstand, the sort of mechanic stand that you can see there. That will be filling up over the course of the day with everyone wanting to watch the racing. Of course, with the Superheats underway now, we expect more to come out for those finals. Green flag waves at the start-finish line, and the drivers fire up those engines and make their way out onto the circuit. Let's take you through the full starting lineup for this one, the busiest grid we've seen in the longest race. It's James Anagnostiidis and Filippo Sala on row number 1, Dean Hugendorn and Noah Baglin on row 2, Archie Lovett and Christian Kostoya round out row 3. They'll have Kip Bolowski and Riley Cranham on row 4. Roman Kamyab and Henry Domain round out the top 10 on row 5. They'll have Ili Christian and Iskander Sulfakari on row 6. Jacob Ashcroft and Harrison Mackie round out row number 7. Jesse Phillips and Joel Pokela go from row 8 with Samuel Woolley and Bosco Arias on row 9. Augustus Toniolo and Oliver Rasmussen round out the top 20 on row 10. William Kalesia and Archie Owen go from row 11. They'll have Louis Cochet and Luke Cornder on row 12. Manuel Maguez and Aston Sharp round out the top 26 on row 13. Sky Parker from Benjamin Magnac, and it's Filippo Pancotti from Clara Kowalczyk. Victor Rad from Alex Malota, Casper Reipold and Lewis Islin, with Marcel Muzelon and Jos Mulder rounding out the 18th row of the grid. Jos Mulder is out there, which is good to see. Jos suffered a little bit of an injury yesterday. A slow procedure came out. He was, unfortunately, he was caught up in an incident where a cart went over the top of his, and I think he hurt his hands a little bit from that incident. He did sit out the next race, so he didn't go out for the end of the day yesterday, but good to see that he's back out in this one, but albeit right at the back of the grid. Remember, 72 drivers have come into this Superheats phase. Only 36 go into the finals later on today. So the drivers outside the sort of cutoff area will be from row 10 backwards. So that will be 19th and 20th backwards. Anyone below there is in a real danger zone here of not making it in to the final later on today. Of course, points certainly do accumulate. You get a little bit more points for the Superheat, 75 in total from the 50 that you get in the qualifying heats phase. So if you're one of those drivers who has struggled a little bit, you can really make some positions in this one. But like we've saying, in the junior category, we have not seen a dominant winner over the course of the weekend. The conditions have been frightful, and I've just spotted there on the right-hand side of the screen one kart spinning around at Bobby Game Corner and going to the back of the grid. Now, I didn't see who that kart was. It's the energy. Is that Jacob Ashcroft, one of them, and the 84 as well? That's Henry Domain. Oh dear, Domain and Ashcroft, who were right up there in the sharp end, I don't think are going to be going any further in this one. And they are out of this race into the tram lines. We are going round again. It is a false start. Drivers not in formation. That was a very late call on that one, only because, like you say, two drivers there out of formation, spinning at Bobby Game Corner. And like it looked like to me, Jacob Ashcroft on the Energy Course chassis and Henry Domain in the number 84. So we'll see if they've not come through, and can confirm it is Domain. And yes, Jacob Ashcroft. So they were supposed to start row 5 and row 7, P10 and P13. So they are going to be well out of contention on this one. Whether or not they make it into the final is another story, though, because the full intermediate classifications will be updated, of course, at the end of the Superheats phase. More championship points as well are up for grabs in the junior category. Slight update on the championship standings, of course, as we have a look at some of the races yesterday.
We've got two spinners at...
That was some of the spinners there, so that was the false start that we saw, and there you can see the two spinners at Bobby Game Corner there. Carts parked up, they go no further. Championship standings, like we were saying in the junior, is a bit of a strange one, actually. Dries van Langendonk leads it, but he's not racing in the juniors this weekend. He has stepped up into the senior category this weekend in preparation for his next season, of course, and we'll have to see what he can do. The former junior world champion in the OK category, stepping out of this pre-round. So let's see what happens then. Drivers lined up, ready to go. We are in a position of readiness by the looks of it. Into the tram lines, lights go green. We are racing, and it's a great start for Anagnostiidis. utilising that outside line. He had the dry line through turn number 1, and he holds on to the lead here. Baglin goes over the curb a little bit. He sloops back into position. He's there in second place as everyone's making moves. Just Mulder from the back of the grid has already made some good moves there. You can see him in the victory lane kart with the green helmet. Very distinctive livery. Pushing his way through. Filippo Sala behind Christian Costoya as they dive down in towards hairpin number 1. The battle for the lead, though, is on as Baglin tries to get involved with Anagnostiadis, but not going to do so. There in the background, you saw Kit Bolowski in the number 69 getting squeezed out wide, but he stays there because now he'll have the inside line on the exit as Kamyab slots in behind him now, as well as Harrison Mackie in the 129 trying to get involved as well. Down the inside, Dean Hugendorn trying to get his nose done. I think he's done that now, as everyone gets through, as the Sodi kart there in the top section, Riley Cranham, certainly getting involved. Baglin now takes the lead of this one. Noah Baglin through the Mike Wilson complex as the track is slowly starting to dry out quite nicely out there. Now takes to the front of the field, and yes, he says, okay, yep, that's good, let's go, let's focus, let's break away. So it's Baglin, Anagnostiadis, Costoya, Hugendorn, Sala from Lovett, Cranham from Bolowski, Zulfikari from Kamyab, the top 10 at the moment. But there on your screens, the clear visors on. You just can't have a tinted visor on this one today. It's dark out there. It's not, you haven't got a lot of visibility. So again, clear visors. That risk of rain is still very high, despite the fact that the rain radar says that we're clear. Here, Sala under pressure from Hugendorn down into hairpin number 1. Filippo Sala with the yellow helmet there pushing himself forward. Is still down 2 positions. He's not had the best start after starting this on the front row of the grid. He just didn't get that getaway from the inside line as one of the Forza karts in the background there getting a little bit tangled up at the exit of hairpin number 2. Out of the Fullerton S's through Bobby Game. No chance of an overtake through here right now. But again, these two really just trying to push themselves along in this phase of the race. So we'll keep a close eye on them. In terms of the intermediate classifications, that will be changing, of course, when we see the next group out on circuit. But here right now, here's Cranham on Lovett. Is he going to try and go for the move? No, stays behind, but certainly had a look at the exit of Pitts Bend. Up into the banking they go. Keep a close eye on this one. The battle for P6 is on. And with Lovett, Cranham and Bolowski here. Bolowski certainly is one these drivers need to keep an eye on. Delivered some good results yesterday. Came away with a couple of qualifying heat wins in the second part of the weekend. And certainly looking strong right now. Out of the slipstream, down in towards hairpin number 1. Through goes the Fusion kart of Kit Bolowski. Get past Cranham. Nicely done. And now Kamyab is under pressure from Iskander Zulfikari just behind as well. Roman Kamyab certainly having an up and down weekend on this one, but has certainly delivered for the Ricky Flynn Motorsport team. But like you say, he has got that pressure just behind him. Back here at the front, though, and Baglin and Anagnostiadis, they have not been battling, but Christian Costoya, however, has closed in. Costoya has certainly been an interesting case over the course of this weekend because, well, started the weekend superbly. 2 qualifying heat wins to kickstart the Spaniards' days of racing. But the third heat, it was a DNF. He was out of that third race of the weekend, and that's put him down in the order in this one. And yesterday in the wet conditions, it was just around in the top 5 all the way throughout it. 2 4th places and a P5. So certainly overnight, it looks like the Powerline team have changed the setup a little bit on that chassis to help it in these sort of changing conditions right now, because like I say, it's not raining out there and there is a dry line still forming every lap we do, and he's certainly enjoying this one now. Is Costoya as new race leader. Anagnostiadis takes back to the front right now and tries to push himself ahead. So Baglin back into second place. And clearly James Anagnostiadis thinking that Baglin not fast enough here to break away from Costoya, and the 2 teammates switch positions. Of course, the Prema team running not only karting but all sorts of Formula divisions as well. And they've got a great backing from the team. Certainly a favourite to be a part of. It's Anagnostiadis, a newly formed Mercedes junior driver as well. Certainly been delivering over the course of his young career. Driver of the 67 in the OK Junior category right now, looking very competitive, but is not a driver in contention for the championship this weekend. Sits well down in the points for the Junior Championship. The main contenders in this one it's probably Nicholas Schaufler. I think he's unbeatable really on this one. I mean, Van Langendonk leads the way, and of course drop scores are going to be at play, as here is how Anagnostidis made that move down the inside at hairpin number 1. Classic move here at PF International. No drama there whatsoever, and Baglin not putting on the pressure. However, slight oversteer moment there for Anagnostidis out of hairpin 2. Already, you're seeing that pace that we saw yesterday from Anagnostidis come through today in these same conditions. Breaking away from Baglin. Costoya there with a little oversteer moment out to the Fullerton S's. Now is under pressure from Filippo Sala, who has closed in. And again, Sala, who struggled a little bit over the course of yesterday's racing in the rain, but did deliver a win and a third. Started it with the P4 as well, so it wasn't too bad. But now in this one, let's see what he can do. Those wet tyres on that dry racing line will start to slowly disintegrate away. But of course, the track is still covered in water in other places, so I can imagine these drivers doing a good job keeping the temps down in those Maxxis racing tyres. Anagnostidis then, fastest lap of the race, breaking away from the drivers behind us. There you can see Baglin, well, it looked like he was taking a defensive line there into turn 2, but not defending from anyone. That's purely cooling the tyres down, getting off the racing line, going onto that standing water on the circuit, trying to cool those tyres down as Costoya continues to be under pressure here from Filippo Sala. Sala right now not able to find a way through just yet, but I can imagine in the next few laps we will see something from these two. And there it is. We didn't have to wait too long, actually. It was straight down the inside going into the Mike Wilson complex. And nicely done there for Filippo Sala. No time wasted. And now he can go to work and see if he can close up Baglin, because Baglin's not too much further up the road. All the meanwhile, a big oversteer moment there for Sala out of Pitts Bend, and that's allowed Bolowski to close in right now. Bolowski's closing speed through turn number 1 is immense. He got a much better run through the Bruno Ferrari S's, and he's going to utilise that now and try and go down the inside. No, thinks against it, stays behind as, well, there you go, Bolowski setting that fastest lap of the race, 1:11.6, showcasing the track is getting faster out there. I think the wind picking up a little bit as well. There's a little bit of a flurry out there. But at this moment, still no rain in sight and no rain to be expected in the next few hours. So again, I suspect this track is only going to get faster and faster as the day goes on. Costoya now under pressure from Bolowski, and you can see how twitchy that Parolin is. You can see he's just trying to hold it on those outside lines, trying to keep it on that dry line as much as he possibly can. But of course, keep those tyres nice and cool as well. But Bolowski's found the gap. He's gone through at one of the most unusual places on the circuit, but amazingly, the traction levels were there. And yeah, straight away, Costoya's thinking, I've got to cool these tyres down. They're overheating. I've got no grip out there. And that is the problem, you know, with running wet tyres on a track like this, a drying surface. They overheat, they get too hot, they then lose all traction. They work at a much cooler temperature, do the wet tyres, obviously battling away with all of that. But what happened here? Oh dear, straight off the track in the background. Nice little race happening here. This is well further down in the order. I think was that Augustus Toniolo going off the track there. Further down, this was the little sideways twitchy moment there from Costoya that allowed Filippo Sala to go through. And again, nice little overtake there for Sala, just utilising that little micro mistake from Costoya on the exit. But then Sala coming out, whew, that was a scary moment there for Filippo Sala, pushing that kart just a little bit harder than I think he needed to. But right now, still there in third place, trying to close in on Baglin, and that gap is down to half a second. Sala setting the fastest lap on that last one as well, so that gap is closing down. Back to this one here, Cam Yaban-Cranham They're battling away P6, P7 at the moment as, well, there you see the clouds looming in the background. But all the drivers here looking very strong in their performance there. Confirmation. Sala with the fastest lap of the race, 111.085 is pushing in. Looking back a little further in the order, some of the big movers. Aston Sharp in the 174 is up into P16. That's a good run. He's brought himself out of contention for maybe getting into the final later on, as saw there Sala very close to Baglin for P2, but not close enough for the move just yet. Oh dear, Sala going a little bit wide there, so he's lost all momentum right now. And now he's back under pressure from Kit Bolowski. So all the work that Sala had just done to try and close up to Baglin has now been lost, as now he has to think about defending from Bolowski behind. So back onto the start-finish straight. You can see at this point here, it's a really bad exit for Sala. Cannot carry the speed at all through Pitts Bend, and straight through goes Kit Bolowski and gets up into third place. So Bolowski's exit speed here, and I think that's just showcasing the knowledge there of, you know, can you get the exit speed there? You can throw it in, you can get the exit, you can get on the power sooner if you take that slightly wider entry line, as there's yellow flags out in this sector. We've lost a handful of drivers, and I think the main drivers that we've lost are the latest one. It might be William Kalesia in the 96 that's had a problem. There, I think, is Augustus Toniolo that's parked up at the side of the track at the exit of the Litchfield Bridge. So, again, we're seeing some dramas here. Now this is Bolowski who's closed in on Baglin. So he's made quick work of this, has Kit Bolowski. His kart at this moment is on rails, straight down the inside. No contest there at all. Every other kart here looks super slippery out there, but that Fusion kart of Kit Bolowski looking like it's on rails, but as I say that, goes way too quick out of Pitts Bend and runs out all the way to the tyres, and Baglin goes straight back through now as we go on to the last lap of this race. At this moment, James Anagnosiadis is clear in the front, but this battle for second place is on right now. Baglin there in P2, just retaken it. Bolowski with that mistake out of Pitts Bend now is on the back foot. It's going to go to the inside here. Baglin's going to give him the space. He runs out wide. He's going to try and get the wet line, but Filippo Sala is there. Filippo Sala, who took that slower inside line as well, was just in the wrong place and the wrong time for Baglin, and Baglin's gone straight into the back of him, and there you can see he's furious. He's probably thinking now that, oh, have I got a nose cone because of that? Was that now a drop nose? And with that will come a 5-second post-race time penalty for a drop nose, but you don't know if you've got one just yet, so stay calm, get to the end of this one. Anagnosiadis, though, for Australia, well, he's going to add to his tally of wins, and he's going to add another one with Superheat 1 win for the Australian. It's a flag-to-flag finish for the Prema Racing driver. Kit Bolowski finishes in P2 from Noah Baglin. Filippo Sala rounding out the top four from Roman Kamiab, Christian Costoya, Riley Cranham, Dean Hugendorn, Harrison Mackie, and just across the line, it's Illy Christian who rounds out the top 10. So for the intermediate classifications then, James Anagnosiadis increases his lead, and I don't think he can be beaten in those points now. So James Anagnosiadis looking like he could be the pole sitter for the final later on today. But of course, we have got another junior superheat to go. But it was the points leader going into today, and that win purely extends it. Here's your full results then. We've gone over the top 10. Archie Owen from Louis Cochet, Archie Lovett from Aston Sharp, and Iskender Solfakari, who rounds out the top 15 out there. Sharp gaining 12 places. Owen and Cochet also 11 places in that race. Samuel Woolley for the Calicart Racing team finishes in P16 ahead of Joel Pocula. Bosco Arias from Sky Parkers, 8 places gained. It's a good result finishing there. Is it enough to get into that final? That is the question. Luke Corner just behind. Reipold, Malota, Kowalczyk, Phillips, Victor Rad, Rasmussen, Jus Mulder, Manuel Miguez, Benjamin Magnac, Filippo Pancotti, and then the retirements, Toniolo, Kalesia, Muzelon, Domain, Ashcroft and Islin. And for Domain and Ashcroft, that is a real risk now of not making it into that final later on today. But there on your screen, the Australian James Anagnostiadis, another superb race performance there in the challenging conditions. That last second decision to switch sides of the grid and getting it going. There you can see the drivers at the start of that one, the spins in the formation lap. They were unfortunately tumbling down the order for Jacob Ashcroft and Henry Domain, not even able to start the race and putting themselves at risk, not making that final later on today. Race started though, however, nice and well for the majority of the field. You can see there Anagnostiadis very wide going through the tunnel, managing to switch it back, get it back onto the racing line. And then you can see the field of drivers all taking the different racing lines throughout that race. But like we were saying, the dry racing line slowly forming out there. And it's a very distinctive dry racing line through turn number 1. Well, at this moment in time, the rest of the race continuing. We didn't say much about Harrison Mackie in that one. Made good positions. He was up into P9 at the end of that one. 5 places gained. Certainly struggled to make his way through the field. However, as Dean Hugendorn and Riley Cranham started to make their moves on Filippo Sala in the early stages, we saw the first change of the lead. Baglin down the inside of Anagnostiadis, and we thought that could be, well, that could be signed, sealed and done for the rest of it, because we saw the communication coming in from the team there. And Baglin saying to Anagnostiadis, right, let's focus, let's break away. However, it didn't stay like that, but we'll catch up with that later on. Bolowski down the inside there of Lovett in the early stages. Lovett dropping backwards to P13. So not the result he would have wanted in that race. But as Bolowski started to make his way through the field, getting all the way up to P2. Here is where we saw that second change between the two teammates. Anagnostiadis straight back down the inside at hairpin number 1 on lap number 4. Soon as that move was done, the gap then opened up, despite that little twitchiness there out of hairpin number 2, certainly showing that the Prema driver from Australia was delivering. There was Augustus Toniolo going very wide there out of Bobby Game corner. He would later retire from the race, one of the multiple retirements in this one. That slight micro mistake there from Costoya, the back end stepping out, gave the green light to Filippo Sala to send it down the inside. Not finishing as high up as he wanted, but still Filippo Sala rounding out the top 4 at the end of that race, despite, again, that very risky moment at the exit of turn 15 and Pitts Bend. Bolowski again making his move, this time on Costoya. Costoya finishing that race in P6, not gaining or losing any places, so still having a good run. As, again, you can see Costoya running very wide in the background. Here was Bolowski getting through past Sala, straight down the inside on the start-finish straight. No drama there whatsoever. His speed, his exit speed out of the corners has been absolutely phenomenal. This was the first one, overtake for second place. This is how he got past Baglin. So that was the second place move. But then literally a few corners later, I think Bolowski just had a little bit too much confidence on that accelerator pedal, and right to the outside of the track it went. That allowed Baglin straight back through onto the final lap into second place. However, later into hairpin 1, straight back down the inside for Kip Bolowski, pushing his way through, and unfortunately there for Baglin, not able to get that switch back. You can see there that Sala going through, a little bit of contact between the two of them, and you can see instantly that he's looking down thinking, oh no, have I just dropped my nose? And yeah, I think he has, and yeah, you can see he's very frustrated with that one. So Baglin maybe losing out on a few more places, but there, James Anagnostiadis, well, you could see a big smile underneath that helmet there, knowing that he won that race by 5.4 seconds. In these conditions, he's been looking absolutely phenomenal. So coming to that final later on today, well, he's looking like certainly the favourite. Right, we now turn our attention to the senior category. Superheat 1 is coming up next. 15 laps, 20.5 kilometre race distance, and again, all the way throughout the weekend for the seniors. It's been a challenging one. And in this one, we have seen the dominant drivers in forms of 2 of them. This man here, Freddie Lloyd, for the Fusion Motorsport team, has certainly been delivering over the course of that one. So, over the course of yesterday's racing, here is what happened because, well, like we said, Freddie Lloyd, who starts this one on pole position in his first race, only finished second place. I say only, still a very good result, but the rest of them were all wins across the day. He started it on pole position, just beating Joe Turney. But Joe Turney second overall, but did win on track all of his races. It was only in the last race where he picked up a post-race penalty that dropped him down to fourth place, which gifted Freddie Lloyd that chance to start on pole position for Superheat 1. Gus Lawrence as well was another driver who certainly delivered, the same as Joseph Smith. Gus Lawrence results not taking qualifying heat win, but never being outside the top 5 has put him on the front row alongside his fellow Briton Joe Turney in Superheat 2. The same, like we're saying for Joseph Smith, he's made good moves. The same as Scott Lindblom, Matthew Higgins, Saliminar, and Dries van Langendonk. They all start in that top area throughout it. One driver who struggled, though, was Thibaut Ramekers, not having the results he wanted. The driver who leads the senior championship standings right now is under threat from Joe Turney. Well, going into today, we'll have to see what happens in those races, but the first race for the senior category is coming up next, and this is how they will line up. It is Freddie Lloyd from Joseph Smith on row number 1, Scott Lindblom and Matthew Higgins on row 2. David Cosma and Jimmy Elias round out row number 3. They'll have Lewis Francis and Lewis Gilbert on row 4. Lewis Werrell and Noah Montero go from row 5 and round out the top 10. They'll have Kai Rillarts and David Walter on row 6. Matthias Morgato and Hugo Marti on row 7. Jakob Mikalev and Michael Adair on row 8. They'll have Alexander Bondarev and Sebastian Korpeng on row 9. Mark Demnitsky and Ian Eichmans round out the top 20 on row 10. Fred Green and Santino Panetta go from row 11. They'll have Guillaume Bouzard and Austin Gale on row 12. Jakub Kawanek and Oscar Repetto round out row number 13. Row 14 is there, Matthias Morgato. Oh, dear, out. It's a flat tyre, apparently, there with the graphic. Matthias Morgato going no further in this superheat, and that puts him in a real risk right now because he was starting at 13th, and that puts him right to the back. Matthias Morgato might not even make the final. Well, this is very, very dramatic stuff here, and hopefully he sorts this one out. Well, he's not going to get it on the track for this one, but hopefully he makes it into that final. The rest of the field, though, as they quickly come round. Harley Keeble and Philippe Carras on row 14. Thibaut Jungling and Brunner on row 15. It's Benoldi and Lee from Matsui, from Besson, Chartier and Monza who round out the rest of the field. But for Matthias Morgato, out with a flat tyre, that is not what you want to see at all. And he'll be watching this one from the sidelines and hoping he can make it into that final. Into the tram lines, lights are green, we race, and down in towards turn 1. Freddie Lloyd takes the optimal racing line and holds on to it. Elias and looks like Lewis Gilbert there on the grass on the inside of turn number 1. Everyone gets through the tunnel cleanly, but it's not gone too clean there over the banking as drivers getting tangled up with each other. Scott Lindblom clipping the grass on the outside, and someone has clipped the barrier on the inside, and it looked to me like it was a victory lane. Was that Jimmy Elias? I think it was. Jimmy Elias, who has won qualifying heats this weekend, started at P6, is out of this race on the exit of the Litchfield Bridge. There's other drivers who have gone off the track there as well. The Beyond Racing driver of Philippe Carras, who's had a dismal weekend here, qualified so well, but his qualifying heats have been plagued with DNFs, and it's just not gone his way. There's more dramas out at hairpin number 2 as well. Looks like one of the Forza carts going no further in this one. So we'll try and find out who that is in a few moments' time. But across the line, it is Freddie Lloyd who leads the way. Perfect start for him. He's got Joseph Smith for company. Here comes Werrell down the inside of David Cosma, and Werrell gets through now up into P6. Great start for him. As the field go through, two of the drivers have gone backwards. So I think Sadabat Soy, has gone to 32nd place. She's absolutely fine. It's Austin Lee. Austin Lee was the Forza driver that's gone off the track at hairpin number 2. And he also is out of this race. Jimmy Elias, I think, is he still going in this one? I think he is. I think he's got restarted, which is good to see. But like I say, he's all the way down the back of the field. and he's not far off from getting lapped already on only lap 2. Eichmann's down the inside there, and again pushing himself forward there past Alexander Bondarev. Bondarev has had a terrible one on this one. Currently running a P19, not what he wants at all, and gets up into P18 now. He's on the charge back. But we'll have to keep an eye on this one. Other drivers as well, Oscar Repetto, Harley Keeble. Keep an eye on Keeble. Didn't have the greatest qualifying. Qualifying heats, though, yesterday certainly proved to be favourable. Really gained positions in the wet conditions. So, again, we'll have to see what happens. Again, everyone on those wet tyres pushing themselves forward. The track is drying. But this is a very interesting one here. As again, Higgins now getting past Joseph Smith. So Smith down to 3rd place. Matthew Higgins, again, a very knowledgeable driver of this circuit, pushing his way forward in this field. But again, well, we're expecting this track to keep drying, but we don't know if more rain is forecast on the way. But Lloyd, Higgins, Smith is the order, and Lloyd is clear by 3.1 seconds right now. So I don't think we're going to see any drama there, and you can hear it on the cameras, you can hear it there at home if you're watching, the tyre squealing that's happening, and that is wet Max's tyres being absolutely shredded to pieces. Now there is the rain radar again. There's other little bands of rain now coming up from the south, so we might actually pick some rain up later on today for the finals. We'll have to wait and see, though, and see if that hits us in time. Lap number 4 of 15. You saw there Werrell battling away there as he's trying to make his way through the field. It was behind Scott Lindblom. Lindblom, the newly announced Red Bull Junior driver for the Fusion team, pushing his way forward there. Lewis Werrell right behind him for the Forza Racing team. Trying to find a way past. This time around a hairpin number 1, not going to happen. Hairpin number 2 again. You can see the single dry racing line out on circuit, but these wet tyres will be taking an absolute beating right now. But the risk is too high to throw on those slicks just yet. As here comes Werrell down the inside, gets it done into the entrance of Bobby Game Corner, and Werrell now moves up to P4. Lindblom now is going to have to deal with the likes of Lewis Gilbert. Gilbert running that rear bumper, and we've seen good results from Gilbert yesterday. Won 2 races on track, I think picked up a penalty after making contact with Ramekers yesterday, and he certainly put himself down, but did come away with 1 qualifying heat win on the books as green flags out, yellow flags out up at the hairpin. There's a cart off on the bridge, and who is tumbling down the order? There you can see it being recovered by the marshalling team. Now, who's not tumbled down the order? There is the cart. I just can't quite see the cart number there. It starts with a 2. It's a Tony cart. That could be Tiziano Monza, actually. That could be the driver from Singapore going no further in the 266, because he's tumbled down to the bottom of my list and I think is out of this race. There is Gilbert. He's got past Lindblom now. As here's the replay.
253, exit post 4. More than 1 attempt to restart.
253. Jimmy Elias, more than 1 attempt to restart. Now that is not going to sit right with the stewards in this weekend, because drivers are told in the driver's briefing you are allowed to restart your kart. You can do it safely, but you only get 1 attempt to do it. If it doesn't fire up the first time, you're out. And for Jimmy Elias, that was not going to be a solution for him, and he did it again. And there you can hear on that radio, Jimmy Elias might be in a spotter bother at the end of this one. Well, he already is. He's running around in 32nd place after that one, but he might lose out on getting into that final later on in the senior category, which would be a big shame for the driver who did take a qualifying heat win over the course of this weekend. Back here, though, nearer the front, Werrell is closing in on Higgins. Lloyd, however, on your screen in the 227. Well, he's breaking away from the rest here. 5.1 seconds clear from the drivers behind. And, well, for Freddie Lloyd, I think he's only had 1 race with Joe Turney, and that race, I believe, ended Lloyd in 2nd place. So he's not really had much time racing with Joe Turner this weekend. And, well, with Turney fighting for a championship, he certainly doesn't want to get in the way. But for Freddie Lloyd, he's going to be focusing on starting this one on pole position and taking that final win later on. And certainly with the performance that we're seeing, it's looking that way. Here we go, Werrell, Smith and Gilbert. The battle for third place is on. Werrell leading this trio as they head in towards hairpin number 2. There you can see Gilbert. I think that nose cone on the Craft wagon might be a little bit loose there. You can see it bobbing up and down just a little bit. So I suspect there might be a nose cone penalty coming the way of the Scotsman, who sits there right now in P5 trying to hunt down Joseph Smith for position. But again, for Lewis Gilbert, he's probably just thinking now I need to gain as many places as I can right now. Let's not mess around, let's push forward. There's the stats of Lewis Werrell, who's at the front of this one. Started at P9, currently third. Position gain 6. Yellow flags out, double waved yellows on the bridge. Another cart has become a cropper on the Litchfield Bridge, and I can see the cart being unceremoniously dragged away. Looks like a Kart Republic that's being dragged away there. As I can see, that could be Sada Matsui, unfortunately, the driver of the 360 from Japan, going no further. So she's out the kart walking away, which is good. But it looks to me like that kart going no further in this race, which is a big, big shame. So back on this one. On lap 8 of 15. And oh dear, big step over there for Lewis Gilbert, pushing that kart as hard as he possibly can. Keeps control of it though. Very experienced here at the PF International Circuit, has raced here many, many times. Certainly looking forward to seeing what he can do later on, but like we're saying, that nose cone, as he tries to cool these wet tyres down as much as he can, that nose cone is not looking too secure on the front of that Craft Motorsport kart. Drivers make their way through. Let's have a look at some of the big movers down there. Biggest mover, Fred Green, 13 places gained, is currently into P8. And we saw this yesterday from Fred Green, pushing his way forward. The driver of the 357, certainly delivering. Now, he starts this race outside the cutoff area, but he has delivered in this one. He's well within it now. And I think Green has done everything he can to make sure he gets into this final later on today. Pushing his way forward. This is Lindblom and David Walter. Just ahead of Fred Green. And Green is a lot further behind. You can see him just coming through shot there in the background. We'll be seeing this battle, and any changes, I can imagine, we will see Green close in. But Lindblom, those tyres getting absolutely destroyed out there right now. The Max's wet tyres, they do last really well in these sort of conditions though still. We've seen that in previous races. I think we saw it at Val d'Argenton in France, the Champions of the Future. We had the wet, rainy conditions. It was the first time I think drivers had deployed the wet tyres that weekend. And again, when we had a sort of half-drying track, we saw those wet tyres coming in. And we looked at them after the race. We thought they were going to be absolutely destroyed, like they were going to look like slicks, but the answer, they didn't. They looked absolutely fine. As we keep an eye on this battle here. Gilbert's closed in on Werrell. This is going to heat up now. Werrell's not been able to break away. And this is pure experience in the senior categories here that we're seeing. I mean, both these drivers are very new to the OK category. And, well, through will go Gilbert. But Gilbert, I believe, just a fraction more knowledge of the PF International Circuit. Knows how to get his wagon around this circuit, and certainly delivering the blow there to Lewis Werrell. Gilbert up to third place now, but he's got to try and break away. That nose cone is throwing the biggest risk to him right now. As I'm going to say it, I think the next race here is going to be slicks. I think the next race here could be slick tyres. But let's see what happens in this race. That nose cone is definitely loose. You can see it. It's just moving around way too much for it to be not attached. Great shot of it there again on Gilbert's kart. Where is he right now? So Gilbert is 12.2 seconds behind the race leader. A 5-second time penalty adding on would add him to 17. He would drop down to around P6 on this one. So he is still ahead of David Walter. But again, he's got to be very careful right now. He's just going to continue to break away. Here is Smith, currently in P5. Lindblom just behind. And again, you can see the drivers trying to cool these tyres down as much as they possibly can. You see a great view of them actually when they go down the start-finish straight. You can see the tread on the tyre there quite nicely. And you can see that they're doing all right there in other shots. And they're not, as I like to call it, pancaking. They're not going to flat, slick tyres at the moment where you see all the rubber just accumulate at the ends of it. Kind of just looks like a pancake on top, but they're holding on, these Maxxis tyres. They can endure these conditions. But right now, the drivers are probably thinking that maybe if we'd gone for slicks, we might have been in a position where we could have just shot to the front on this one. But Lloyd still leads it, clear by 8.4. As this is a replay of Joseph Smith into the corner. Look at his tyres there, and you can see the bumpiness going through there. But again, looking at the tyres look absolutely fine. So again, they'll be overheating. Don't get me wrong, these tyre temps will be through the roof right now, and that's why you're hearing the tyre squealing. That's why you're seeing the times kind of going down at the moment. No one really being able to push it right now. You're just hearing that the tyres screeching away, not getting the pressure down. Here though, Lindblom is going to go for the move here on Smith over the bridge, and there's contact, and Smith goes round. Smith goes round on the exit of the Litchfield Bridge, and Joseph Smith, he tumbles down to P7, while Lindblom went for the move there onto the bridge. Now, Lindblom was thinking, move's definitely on. We're going to need to see that back. Quickly done. That's going to be a tough one for the stewards to work out, but Smith will not be happy with that at all. He will say that Lindblom absolutely dive-bombed me. Lindblom, of course, will say that, no, I was alongside for the move. So that's going to be a fun one for the stewards to sort out after this race. But Lindblom, however, gets up into P5. David Walter, though, has now closed in after that moment. Smith on the back foot now, is in the clean air. Didn't lose too many positions, only lost out to obviously Lindblom and Walter. Rillart's a lot further down the road. He's another 4-5 seconds down the road, 3 seconds down the road from Smith, so he's absolutely fine right now. He can just hold on to that position as, God, listening to these tyres is painful. So much tyre squeal happening out there. These poor Maxxis wet compound tyres being destroyed right now, but certainly pushing well. There you can see warning flag going out to Scott Lindblom, and let's see why.
304 into 290, spinning him out, both continued.
Yeah, there you go, you can see it. Well, being called there for spinning out. Joseph Smith is the call that's been made, and there you can see the warning flag has gone out to Scott Lindblom. But here though on the final lap, Freddie Lloyd, well, what can we say about him? He's gonna have the close company of another Briton in the final later on today, but which one is it gonna be? Could it be Turney? Could it be Lawrence starting on that front row of the grid later on? We don't know, but Freddie Lloyd is certainly gonna be starting it on pole position as he makes his way into the final sector now. Freddie Lloyd has delivered this weekend at the PF International Kart Circuit. It's going to be another flag-to-flag in the Superheat 1 for the senior category. Out to the final corner in the challenging, changing conditions. It is Freddie Lloyd who sees the checkered flag. 9.8 seconds clear from second place, Matthew Higgins. There's going to be an almighty wait for second place to cross the line. He goes through now, does Higgins. Gilbert crosses the line in third place. Where is Lewis Werrell? He crosses P4. Lindblom in P5. Has picked up that warning flag though. Will be in a spot of bother. But there you can see Freddie Lloyd. Another day in the office today, and he'll try and cool those tyres down as much as he possibly can. He'll pick up the marbles as well, because I suspect they've lost quite a bit of weight, those tyres. Being shredded to pieces out there on circuit. A bit of a tough one here. for Freddie Lloyd there, right on the exit of the circuit. But right now, let's see what he can do later on in that final. Here's a look at the full classifications then. It is Lloyd from Higgins, Gilbert and Werrell. Britain 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that a sign of what we could see later on today in the final? Lindblom from Walter, Smith, Rillart, Green, Montero, Gale from Eichmann, Buzar, Bondarev and David Cosma Christopher finishing in the top 15. Hugo Marti from Oscar Opeto, Jakob Mikalev from Santino Panetta, Timo Jungling from Mark Demnitsky, Jakob Kamenek from Felipe Cadas, Lewis Francis, Leon Brunner, Alexander Chatelet, Leonardo Bonaldi from Michael Adair, Hugo Besson and Sebastian Korpeng. But let's see what happens for the rest of the races. There is the rest of the drivers. Salamat Sui finishing in 31st place. The first retirements, Jimmy Elias, Harley Keeble, Tiziano Monza, Matthias Morgato and Austin Lee not really being able to start on that one. So let's see what happens later on today. There is Freddie Lloyd. Another superb result, and they're looking at the tyres. And again, look absolutely fine when you see wet tyres coming in off a drying circuit. There's a nice big smile there from Reggie Dewey. There is mechanic, former driver, Reggie Dewey. Here's a look at the highlights. There is Matthias Morgato. Flat tyre, back in, not good at all for the Brazilian. Hopefully he can make it into that final later on today, but that's a really, really tough one, as he was supposed to start that race P13. Rest of the highlights there on your screen at the start of that race. A little bit shaky in the background there. Some drivers dropping right to the back of the grid in the early stages. No real worries for the rest of them. This one here, though, Jimmy Elias clipping that barrier on the inside, stalling and trying to restart it. And he was told that only one restart is allowed in the driver's briefing. We heard it on the radio. Race director Martin Bing calling it there. 2 restarts for Jimmy Elias has put him in a lot of bother, but he ended up retiring from the race. Eichmann's making the moves in the early stages as backwards there, going the 2:46. Not the result that they would have wanted. It ended up tumbling right down the order for the 2:46, but still a good result nonetheless. This was Higgins making the moves on Smith in the early stages. Lap number 3, Higgins getting all the way up to P2, the driver of the 353 from the Energy Course team, certainly delivering. Werrell as well, also gaining good positions, getting past Scott Lindblom in the early stages. That would allow Lewis Gilbert to close in, but Gilbert, I think, under pressure from that nose cone. You can see he's got a little bit of a sticker damage on the front of that, and you can see it bobbing up and down there over some of the bumps on the circuit. There was Sadamat Sori, unfortunately, the young Williams junior driver, out of the race from Japan, going no further. You can see there Tiziano Monza's kart also stricken on the bridge. Gilbert getting past Joseph Smith. He moved up the order, and you can see there the communication between the two of them, thinking, yeah, don't worry about it, me, just go. Despite that, Gilbert still pushing as hard as he can. Would later close in on Lewis Werrell. Would get straight past, no drama there whatsoever. Then this battle between Lindblom and Joseph Smith. This move here, down the inside, put Lindblom in the crosshairs of the stewards and the race control team, and round would go Joseph Smith. Only losing out of one position, immediately throwing his hands up in protest. And for the Briton, not what he wanted to see at all. But for this young man here, Freddie Lloyd, maximum points for him, and he will look to start on pole position for that final later on today. Well, we're going to be heading in towards Superheat 2 in a moment's time for the junior category, and that will have Scott Marsh starting on pole position with Jarrett Clark starting alongside. But again, all the way throughout this one, the cutoff is there, and there's a lot of drivers who are in that danger zone of not being able to get into that final, the elimination zone. You do not want to be there. There is Scott Marsh on your screen, starting it on pole position. As you can see, he has chosen to stay on that inside line. But the question is, what about tyres? Well, I can see now, it looks like everyone has gone for dry tyres. And well, because yesterday it was raining all the way throughout, a lot of drivers didn't have the chance to deploy their their newer set of tyres yesterday. So now they've all deployed them now. So there's a lot of drivers with brand new tyres on board, brand new slick tyres, which means this one should be very, very interesting. There is Jarrett Clark, the number 41, starting it on the front row of the grid. Qualified 15th on Friday. It's good qualifying and good qualifying heats for him. Never outside of the top 5. 2 P5 finishes. Did have a P4, a couple of second places, but did take a qualifying heat win. He just steps out of his car briefly to have a quick word with the Forza team. There is your officials on the gantry. You can see Ryan Manchester, start line marshal, Dan Ashton, clerk of the course, joined by our race director Martin Bean on the gantry. And there you can see jackets are coming off. And again, temperature is not too great right now, 16 degrees. It's still just cloudy out there. And that gantry, of course, still very slippery and wet. So they've got to be careful on that. But the track right now drying out. This is going to be an interesting one here. The single wet or dry line on the circuit. Half the track still covered in water. Everyone going out on slick tyres. Let's see what happens. Engines fire up as the field heads out on track. Let's take you through the full starting lineup for the OK Junior Superheat 2. Scott Marsh and Jarrett Clark round out row number 1. They'll have Zach Green and Rocco Coronel on row 2. Kenzo Craigie and Asher Osteen on row 3. They'll have Nicholas Schaufler and Ian Kraling on row 4. Jacopo Martinez and Daniel Kelleher round out row 5. Then you'll have Devon Waltz and Gareth Fairhand on row 6. Vladimir Vanikov and Endo Rata round out row 7. They'll have Andrea Mani and Zhang Jose on row 8. Ludovico Mazzola and Boris Lyson round out the final row that's inside the cut-off area. And then after that, you see Sebastian Mins and Turner Brown. Drew Waltz and Lev Krutilov, who's had a brilliant round of qualifying heats. He qualified terribly, but he has made his way through the field. He starts his one, P22, just outside that cut-off. Then it's Paul Andriotis and Bruno Greek on row 12, Kanishk Rao and Toby Gale on row 3, Jean-Matteo Rousseau and George Edgar round out row number 4, Bautista Panetta and Makar Savalev round out the top 30 on row 15. They'll have Jack Eiliff and Thomas Bardier on row 16. Armin Carrier Osman and Gilles Herman round out row 17 with Mats van Ruin and Oscar Gallin rounding out the 18 rows on grid. All drivers confirmed on slick tyres for this race, but with that track, well, still pretty wet out there. You just don't know what is going to happen. Of course, the crowd's accumulating over the bridge section there. You can all see them wanting to get the view of the banking over the bridge here. And, of course, through turn number 1. This is a tense time for them right now. First race of the day on slick tyres. Clouds looming all over the circuit, but it's the brightest it's been since, of course, Friday, where you didn't see those beautiful conditions on the broadcast. We weren't live on Friday, but it was a beautiful 23, 25 degrees, blue sky and sunshine throughout. But over the last couple of days, this European field has had to deal with the British weather. The rain tumbling throughout this weekend. It rained a lot last night. And this morning, of course, with the low temperatures, the track not drying up like we would usually see in a summer storm in Europe. You get a lot of rain and thunderstorms every night in, say, Spain or Italy after a really hot day. But then by the time you get there in the morning, yes, okay, the track is green with no rubber down, but at least it's dry and they can go out on slicks first time. But it's not the case here. Looks like we're good to start racing. Are we going racing the first time of asking? No, it is a false start. They are heading round again. So the field not getting away well. So this gives them a good opportunity to, again, get a little bit more temperature in those tyres. But we'll have to see what happens as, again, a lot of standing water still out there. You can see over the bridge. Yes, there's a lot of dry bits out there. A lot of wet bits out there as well, so they will have to be careful. Reminder of the Junior Championship at the moment after the qualifying heats phase yesterday. It's still Van Langendonk who leads it, 257. However, he is racing in the senior category right now, so he scored absolutely nothing for this round. Nicholas Schaufler only scoring 2 championship points, but puts himself still second in the championship, and he's only 20 points behind Van Langendonk with still many more points opportunities to score right now. Christian Costoy sits third with 198 from Rocco Coronel's 181, so they're still relatively close in the championship standings. However, I don't think they're going to have enough to try and close in on Schaufler. We'll have to see how it goes because Costoya's been looking strong. Schaufler, however, has been on the back foot a little bit, but he starts this one, the number 33, on the 4th row of the grid after qualifying 26th place overall over the course of this weekend. But let's see what happens. A little bit shaky at the back of the field here. Looks good at the front. Are we racing? No, another false start. That's 2 false starts out of 2. A 3rd false start. And they might be in a bit of bother. You can forgive the drivers a little bit, though, for this one. Remember, slick tyres on a wet track, not what you want to see at all. But these drivers are doing it, and that means when they get into the Bobby Kane, Mike Wilson complex, where they have to really slow it down, think about where they position themselves, holding on to that one, it's difficult to do. It's difficult to stay bunched up all the way throughout. But let's see what happens 3rd time of asking. Hopefully the front keeps it nice and steady. You can understand why the front it keeps going as fast as they can. They need to keep temperature in these slick tyres. The operating window is pretty high out there, and that is why you're seeing all this weaving happening on that dry line. You step a wheel on that wet, though, and it's gonna rotate. You'll lose all the tyre temperature immediately, and you'll find yourself tumbling down the order. So again, keep the pressure up at the front. Keep it nice and steady. They pass the red line. From this point onwards, no overtaking is permitted. They should be in 2x2 rolling start formation. We're not seeing that, of course. The field's very spread out. They do not want to be on that wet part of the track, so they're all trying to squeeze on that dry bit. But again, the front need to bring the pace down because the back of the grid is just not formed up here into the tram lines. Is it going to be 3rd time's the charm? Are we racing? Yes, we are. We're racing in Superheat 2 in the juniors. The first race on slick tyres, and some drivers have just not got the traction at all. They take to the grass and slide down the order. The front runners, though, holding on to that racing line, and Marsh holds on to the lead of this one as they go over the Litchfield Bridge for the first time. Some drivers getting caught out on the wet conditions. They'll lose all the tyre temperature and they'll run out wide on the exit of the Litchfield Bridge, and they do. One of the NG courses going backwards, as I think was the Paralin of Kere Fairhand, who had the trouble at the start of the race, and the Bruno Ferrari S's. There's a spin, multiple spins at hairpin number 1. 3 carts off and into the barriers. Marshall's quickly on the scene to assist, but we'll find out who they are in a moment. But at the moment, it is Scott Marsh who leads the way from Zach Green. There, Rocco Coronel up into 3rd place, and it looks like Jarrett Clark holding on to P4 for the time being. It's a 4-cut breakaway there. The confirmation the cart's involved in that one. Looks like Jacopo Martinese could be one of them. Looks like that's the barrel of Ludovico Mazzola involved. Drew Waltz could be another one, and possibly even Toby Gale in the CRG, who I think have all got caught out on that first opening lap. But the race continues, and it is Scott Marsh who leads the way, but not for much longer, because down the inside goes Zach Green. Coronel goes through as well, as now Scott Marsh is having to defend from Kenzo Craigie. Craigie, another one of the Mercedes junior drivers, heading in towards hairpin number 1 under yellows. No overtaking will be permitted here. He's got to wait until he passes the green. Now he sees the green flag. They are green flag and racing once more. So he can go for the move, and he's done that instantly. Straight down the inside through hairpin number 2 for Kenzo Craigie, and he's up into P4, pushing himself along nicely here. Marsh down there in P6, Krayling there as well. Asher Osteen has got past Nicholas Schaufler. Schaufler has tumbled down to 8th place in this one. So we'll keep a close eye on this, but the top 3 are looking competitive right now. Zach Green pushing himself forward. 2 qualifying heat wins yesterday over the course of the weekend. Can he take a superheat win in this one? And that will help him out in the final, because it will bump him up 2nd, but he's going to lose out on the lead, because through goes Coronel and through goes Jarrett Clark. Now with that change of position, that might help out Jarrett Clark. He sits a little lower down in the intermediate classifications with 314 points, but he is a fraction ahead now of Rocco Coronel, and Clark now steps up into 2nd in the points as he gets through past Coronel. Has Coronel got a problem? He's run wide, and those slick tyres are cooled right down, and the field just swamped him there on the exit. Oh, it's very wide, goes Green. He's going to have no temperature in the tyres into Bobby Kane Corner. You can see he turned in, he had nothing. You can see a flurry of new tyres that have been allocated for the drivers. We didn't call that at the start. They used none of their fresh tyres yesterday in racing because, of course, it was wet all the way throughout. So a lot of them saving them for this one. There, a stricken Birla kart. That is the number. Is that the 151 on our screens? I'm not sure who that is. It is a Birla. It might be the that might be actually the 158 of Ludovico Mazzola, actually, who was one of the drivers who spun in the early stages. Eyes on this one, though. Clark leads the way. Green from Craigie. It's an all-Britain 1-2-3 at the moment. Ian Kraling, though, is there in the Kart Republic for Germany, starting to close in P4. He's got the close company, though, of the CRG of Asher Osteen. Rocco Coronel right behind him, as well as Scott Marsh, who was the pole sitter for this one, is slowly starting to fade into the field as he's got Nicholas Schaufler, the Austrian mouse, right there behind him. Eyes on this one, though. Is the group behind closing in on this lead trio? I think the answer to that is yes. Craigie, who's there in third place, is in a real danger zone here right now after he had that little slippery moment there as he clipped a wheel onto the wet part of the track. He's put himself in a bit of a danger zone right now. Through the bridge, here comes Coronel, though, back down the inside. Coronel through past Asher Osteen, getting up now into P5, and Coronel is on the recovery drive here right now. Marsh has come through as well, and do my eyes deceive me? Is that a bit of sunshine breaking through the clouds here at PF International? I think it might be for the first time since Friday, and all these drivers who have got their clear visors on now have just been dazzled by the sunlight that has broken out through the clouds. Absolutely amazing. We weren't expecting this at all. We were expecting worse conditions today, but it certainly seems to be brightening up for our drivers here for finals day. Jarrett Clark leads the way. Green, Craigie, Kraling. At this moment, 1, 2, 3, 4, back onto the start-finish straight, and again, they get dazzled by the sunlight over the start-finish line. Here comes Coronel down the inside of Schaufler. Schaufler getting just squeezed a little bit onto that wet part of the track, but he's managed to keep the temperature into the tyres. However, Kelleher and Marsh managed to get back through the exit of the bridge there as they head down in towards hairpin number 1. Top 4 are fine. Here's a look at the rain radar. Well, there's quite a bit of rain actually coming from the south. That looks like it's making a beeline for the circuit, but at what part of the day will that hit? Will it be during the finals, or will it be as soon as I leave the commentary box to go do the podiums? My life would say that it'd probably be at that time. Coronel, I think, sad drama. He's tumbling down the order on my screen. I don't know if it's transponder related or is the driver of the 109 out of this race. There are yellow flags out at hairpin number 1. There's a kart that's gone heavy into the barriers. It is a VDK, what looks to me like it's gone into the barriers there. And no, okay, Coronel's still in the race. It was a transponder issue. So the kart off there at turn number 1, I think is a VDK. And if that is the case, I think it's Gilles Herman, the Belgian, out of this one. Yep, you can see it, the 58 going no further, and he made a big hit into the wall there. He pushed quite a few barriers out of position, so the yellow flags I suspect will be out there for a little bit. And there's more karts off at the Fullerton S's. Now the drivers are coming into that now. Who's the other kart that's off? It's just on the exit of the Fullerton S's. And Marshall's on scene. I think it might be Oscar Gallin. Oscar Gallin on the Koski Motorsport kart also out. Here's Ian Kraling, replay of him down the inside of Zach Green. And Kraling up into third place. So Kraling now pushing through, the German driver enjoying the conditions right now, but he's got first place right in front of them. Jarrett Clark, Kenzo Craigie going for the lead. Kraling goes through as well. And now it is Craigie versus Kraling, 1-2. Clark is down into third place, as there off the track is the 97 of Andrea Mani, the Forza Racing driver, going no further. And I think Makar Savalev has also been a driver who's come a cropper out on circuit. As the sun continues to shine here at PFI, they'll be coming into yellow flags. No overtaking will be allowed here, so Craig is safe for the time being. Those flags clear now. So now he's going to have to think defensiveness. Bautista Panetta picks up a warning flag. But at the moment, Kraling piling on the pressure, but Clark's going to send it down the inside through the Mike Wilson complex. He's not got through. Kraling still in second place, and now has dropped back a little bit off the back of Kenzo Craigie. Kenzo Craigie so far this weekend has been eluded a qualifying heat win. Can he end the day with a Superheat win?
Start number I saw goes got a graph 109.
So 109, Rocco Coronel, and that might be the reason why we saw Coronel dive down the order. Was it a case of it just missed one of the timing loops? Where has Jarrett Clark gone? Jarrett Clark, the number 41, he went very slow through hairpin number 1. Did he put a wheel on the wet part of the circuit because he had no power out of the corner? And you can see him there in the background. He is no longer in this lead fight. The driver who was leading this Superheat in the early stages is now out of contention with this one, but he's in still P5 and he's still looking strong. Oscar Gallen is still in this race. Makar Sevelev confirmed was a retirement. The driver of the Fusion team going no further. Right, well, at this moment in time, Kenzo Craigie leads the way and looks comfortable right now. Kraling still in second place. There they are on your screen. Green in third place. And they're still closing in. Asher Osteen trying to get involved. Coronel with the fastest lap of the race. 57s now we're doing. 57 threes. He's got a lot of real estate to try and close in right now as Green Ones ride out of hairpin number 2. Asher Osteen might find a chance here to get past. Green certainly on the back foot here. He's trying to hold on to a top 3 finish. He's trying to hold on to a chance of starting on the inside of row number 2 for the final later on today as he sits third in the intermediate classifications. It's Anagnosianis who leads it. He's not bothered about anything, but Craigie now, who leads this race, bumps himself up to the front row. He would get a good chunk of championship points, which he's not too bothered about at the moment. He's 7th in the championship. He's quite far down, but that would still help him out. It would still bump up a fair few places. Being in this pole position final, lap board is out. Craigie leads the way. Kraling right behind him, and I think Kraling's just said there, hey, don't worry about me. You go for it. I'm not going to go for the move, but, well, we're not saying he's telling lies, but we do tend to see it, the deceiving act of saying to the driver up ahead, hey, I'm not going to fight, you just keep going. And then when they're relaxed and leave the door open, then send it down the inside. Again, it's just that fine line the driver's got to learn when they can trust someone and when they can't. But for Kenzo Craigie, he could, and he will cross the line. He will claim his first win of the weekend, and it will come in Superheat 2 for the OK Junior category. And he will start on the front row for the final later on today. James Anagnosianis is confirmed the pole sitter for the final. Kenzo Craigie will join him. Green and Sala will round out row number 2. Clark and Baglin will round out row 3. Marsh and Hugendorn row 4. And Rocco Coronel and Kip Bolowski will round out row 5 for that final later on today. But all of that I've just said is provisional with a capital P. So don't take my word for it. Let's have a look at the full classifications at the end of that one. Kenzo Craigie taking his first win of the weekend for the Prema Racing team ahead of Ian Kraling. Green from Osteen, from Clark, Coronel, Kelleher from Waltz, Brown and Marsh, Schaufler from Martinez, Ivanikov from Carrera, and Greek rounding out the top 15. Boris Lysen from Lev Krutilov, Sebastian Mins, George Edgar. They are just outside or just inside the top cutoff area. Have they made it through to that final? That's the big question. Jean-Mateo Rousseau from Panama, I think, might not have made it. Same as Zhang Jose, Jack Eilif, Armin Kano Osman, Kanish Rao, Thomas Padir, Mats Van Ruin, Bautista Panetta, Oscar Gallin, rounding out the 28 finishers of that race. The retirements, quite a few of them. Makar Savalev, Andrea Mani, Endo Arata, Gilles Herman, Paul Andriotis, Ludovico Mazzola, Drew Waltz, and Toby Gale, all retirements in that race. But for the Prema Racing team, 2 of their drivers will be starting this one on the front row of the grid for the final later on today in the form of James Anagnosianis from Australia and Kenzo Craigie from the United Kingdom. Let's have a look then at the highlights from that race. Well, Jack Clark certainly had his work cut out for him there at the start of that race. Scott Marsh cutting off that inside line to him straight away at the beginning. Clark would only drop down to P4 and actually get up into the race lead in the latter stages. There's Jacopo Martinez. That's why we saw him tumble down the order a little bit. He finished that race P12 as he went across the chicane there at the Fullerton S's. Drivers out in the opening stages. Toby Gale, Drew Waltz and Ludovico Massola were the three drivers who got caught out at hairpin number 1. Coronel taking the lead in the early stages, getting past Zach Green. Green in the end of that one did finish the race in P3, still a good result. Clark then took the lead. Coronel got caught out on the wet part of the track, and Ian Kraling, really nowhere for him to go. He was on his racing line, and yeah, Coronel was there. Luckily for them, that was rim-on-rim action there. No, the tyres making contact. That could have been a little bit worse for them, but Kraling getting up to P4 in the early stages. Clark then holding on to it. Green holding on to second place in the beginning then of that race as the rest of the field started to make their positions through. But Craigie at the end of that one certainly delivering a brilliant race result, just taking those positions a little by little all the way throughout that one, calculating it well for the Mercedes back driver and pushing his way through the field to end that one on the top spot. Like I say, not had a qualifying heat win over the course of the weekend. Has been sitting inside the top 10, a couple of P6s, thirds and seconds throughout it as well. Schaufler as well was a driver certainly we need to keep an eye on because he's the driver in contention for the championship this weekend. He sits second in it. He's only 20 championship points behind Dries van Langendonk. Van Langendonk, who's not even in this weekend. Of course, I don't think can use any drop scores because his weekend in Slovakia for Van Langendonk, where he scored no points, he didn't even make the final in Slovakia. So here at PF International, not scoring another round of points certainly puts him on the back foot. But for Kenzo Craigie, starting on the front row with his teammate James Anagnostiadis, it will be a Prema Racing 1-2 for the junior final later on today. That is due to start at 1 o'clock local time, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. Local time here, 10 past 11, as we head into the final race before the lunch break, and we're going to see who is going to start where for the senior final later on today. Joe Turney there on your screen, starting it on the front row of the grid. Had an absolutely perfect day yesterday up until the moment where he received a post-race penalty. For Joe Turney, he was put down to 4th. A 5-second time penalty was allocated, and that was for an incorrectly installed front fairing, aka a nose cone penalty for Joe Turney. Put him down to P4, and that is what's cost him to start on the front row of the Superheat 2, not Superheat 1. So we lost out on a good chunk of championship points there. There on your screen, Gus Lawrence, part of the PF International team. Well, what can we say about Guzzy? Well, 17th in time qualifying. Not had a qualifying heat win so far this weekend, but now starts in a really strong position. Starts on the front row alongside Joe Turney. But Joe Turney, who has had wins all the way throughout this one. Lawrence, who has not yet had, as well, very appropriately timed, everyone looking up at the sky, thinking, right, what's going to happen? Can confirm for this one that it looks like everyone is on these slick tyres, and again everyone has deployed a brand new set. Now they get 1.5 sets over the course of this weekend, which means they get 3 fronts and 3 rears. Yesterday they won't have used any slicks at all. They would have deployed the wets all the way throughout. And then for this one, they've all deployed their brand new slicks. So all karts have got 2 brand new slicks on board. And a smattering of them choosing between the left and the right side of the karts. Engines fire up then for the last superheat of the day before we head into the finals. Let's take you through the full starting lineup. It is Joe Turney from Gus Lawrence on row number 1. Salim Hanar and Dries van Langendonk round out row number 2. Finn McLaughlin and Olin Galley round out row 3. They'll have Dmitry Matviev and Zach Drummond on row 4. Zach Drummond, I'm amazed he sits there quite high up. 2 DNS for him yesterday. Liveaway Sam Budler and Elliot Kaczynski round out row number 5. They'll have Davide Bataro and Guy Alberghino on row 6. Matteo Giaccardi and Luna Flusha round out row 7. They'll have Thibaut Ramekers, who is the championship leader going into today, starts this one on the 8th row of the grid. Tom Louillet goes from alongside. They'll have Tom Dussel and Vivek Canthan on row number 9. Then the cut-off, the drivers who need to push their way forward in this one, who need to have a good race, but there's someone who's not going to be having a good race. It's the 367 going no further, and that is Gabriel Kerneken, who is certainly on the back foot here, and he sits right on that cut-off area on row 10, because he starts alongside Matt Corby, and they're the first of the drivers who need to make sure they have a good race, and that is certainly not the way you want to start it. Miguel Costa and Andy Consani will go from row 11. Dan Ginchard needs to work hard in this one. The Briton needs to push in this one as well, as he's got Noah Wolf alongside. Two drivers who know this track like the back of their hand. Two drivers who have won multiple British titles at this circuit. Start this race on row 12 and outside the cut-off area. Marcus Schilkunis and Vanguard Clementson go from row 13. They'll have Mika Lemassuer and Andrea Dupé on row 14. Yuri Peschel and Roland Cooklane on row 15. They'll have Harry Hannum and Pedro Hiltbrand, the multiple champion as well. Starting this one on row 16, Jensen Burnett, Radek Vavra, Adam Garcia and Dominic Simek round out the rest. And is that Zach Drummond? It is the Briton going no further. The Paralympic driver who was due to start on P8 is out, and he sits at hairpin number 2. He will have to watch this superheat unfold in front of him, knowing that he will tumble down the order, and well, he might still make the final, but he might be in a spot of bother. We're going round again. It's a false start. Back of the grid not formed up at all. And there you can see change of surface flag is out at turn number 1. Of course, all these drivers on slick tyres. But I am seeing a little extra fluid down there at turn number 1. So maybe a radiator has come loose on the circuit. There is marshals on the track now inspecting the circuit.
Martin race control between 5 and 6 on this front race. And lap 367 is restarting to see what happens, please, between 5 and 6.
Well, just confirming there that that is Gabriel Kerneken restarting. So he has got it restarted, but our race director just wanted to know what has happened. But yes, so change of surface out at turn number 1. There is fluid down on the circuit, and the Masters have checked it. They've given it a thumbs up, so they're saying that I think it's just water that's down there, so we should be okay for racing, but that gives a new dynamic for the field, who are all on slick tyres going in towards turn number 1. Let's see what happens. The last superheat of the day before we head to those finals later on today. It is an All-Britain row number 1 on this one. Joe Turney, who is fighting for the championship. Gus Lawrence, who is here to see what he can do. Lights go green. We race in towards turn number 1. It's a great start from both the front rows, but Gus Lawrence gets caught out, and he heads onto that slippery part of the track. Matviev gets caught out as well. He makes near contact with the barriers. There's yellow flags out. There's carts off at the banking. Who has not come through? Well, we know Drummond's not started this race. That's why you see a gap in the timing. But the front runner's there. Turney has broken away. Perfect start for him. Saliminar there in second, trying to cool the engine down there as well. You can see the VDK of Finn McLaughlin getting through. Now it looks like it could have been Vivek Canthan, the American in the other Paralympic cart, that's been caught out with Pedro Hiltbrand. Pedro Hiltbrand, the Spaniard, I think is out of this race and will not make the final later on today. The multiple karting champion from Spain has to sit it out. McLaughlin heads into second, round the outside in through Pitts Bend, and he moves up into P2. Finn McLaughlin then, what can he do? Can he close in on Joe Turney? For Finn, he's raced here for many years. It's maybe been 1 or 2 since he's been around this circuit, as they're off the track going no further is the 240 VDK of Vanguard Clementson. And that is a big shame for him. No further in this race unless he can get it restarted. But that's going to be a tough one. Here's the replay of the start of this one. There was Matviev right on the outside. Now what happened to Peter Hiltbrand and Vivek Kanthan? Oh, there you can see it. They just get caught out. Big hit in the wall there for Vivek Kanthan. And well, for Hiltbrand, immediately out of the race. There you can see them going off and into the barriers. Gosh, that's quite a hefty hit. And of course, that grass being wet, the drivers do tend to go a bit slippy. Oh, that's why McLaughlin got past. Salim Hanar with incredible kart control to hold on to third place. But brilliant stuff there. Right, so let's keep a close eye on this one now as, oh dear, that's gone wrong. There's multiple karts involved in an incident at the Mike Wilson complex, and there's a smattering of them that's gone down the order. Daniel Ginchard is there, Burnett, Simek, and Marcus Shilkunas are the drivers involved. Yellow flags are out in the final sector, of course. Marshall's quickly on the scene to try and clear it. The field is coming round, though. Of course, the field will come round at near full race pace. And right now, drivers need to slow it down because those karts have been amazingly brilliant job for the Marshall team. Absolutely superb. They have cleared that track before the field has even come round on the next flying lap. Absolutely superb performance. There we go. A look at the tyres. Multitude, everyone has gone for brand new tyres out there on one side. Some drivers maybe in the background not choosing to go for them. I think Harry Hannum, who did deploy them actually yesterday in one race that had got slick tyres on, but it's not worked out for him, and there you can see he's out of the sort of running on this one. He's in that cut-off area. He's not had the best weekend, so a lot of drivers here on the risk of being eliminated. Joe Turney leads the way. The gap between himself and the lead is 1.1 seconds. More yellow flags, more drivers off. Oh dear, and I can see out the commentary box window at hairpin number 1, it's Noah Wolf that has crashed out of this race. There he is on your screen. Noah Wolf, he's out of this weekend. He started this below the cutoff for this superheat. He is now at the back. He's restarted. He's back in it. He's not going to give up, which is good to see. But that's going to be hard for him to get into that final, and he might be out of this weekend. Disaster for the young Briton. McLaughlin sets the fastest lap of the race, has reeled in Joe Turney. That gap is down to just 0.3 of a second. The lap before, it was 1 second. Where did 0.7 of a second go for Joe Turney? As slowly reeling him in is McLaughlin. Here's again another one. Again, Salim Hanar, the back of that Prema kart is not glued to the track at all. Lawrence getting through. Oh, and then Lawrence running wide, and just fraction millimeters between the two of them over the start-finish line. Putting them on the back foot. Love away Sam Budler seeing a warning flag. That's unfortunate for him. Driver qualified very well at the start of this weekend. But unfortunately not seeing this one through, which is a big shame. Joe Turney's under pressure here, ladies and gents, for the first time this weekend. He has been dominant over the course of this one. Wins all the way throughout. Did get a P4 earlier on. But that was down to a nose cone penalty. He did win on the track. But that penalty certainly put him on the back foot, which sees him in this Superheat 2. But McLaughlin right now, maybe thinking of the bigger picture right here, because Finn sits 4th in the championship. Finn won the final in Valencia and in Kristianstad. But here he's on the back foot a little bit on the points, 202. It's a fair chunk behind. Certainly do something, though, in this championship with the points that they've got available here. Big look at some of the stats. Salim Hanar and Gus Lawrence, you can see battling away at the moment for P3 and P4. The tyres that are allocated, you can see them there. Brand new sets on the left-hand side of their kart. The used tyres on the right-hand side. And you can see the positions that they've gained or lost out in this one. Salim Hanar has not lost any, but he's about to lose one as Gus Lawrence heads back through down the inside at hairpin number 1. And the Briton makes his way back up into P3 and trying to hunt down the two up ahead. Turney and McLaughlin lead the way. Salim Hanar now down into 4th place. Gus Lawrence in 3rd. Galley is right there behind, and Kaczynski has closed in on this leading group. The pack behind as well, which is a little further behind, is being led by Luna Flusha. Dries van Langendonk is down there as well. Giacardi, Bataro, Guy Albag's not had a good race on this one. Kotsani, Matviev, Zambudla and Costa, the top 15. Biggest movers out on circuit, trying to get them out of the danger zone. Yiri Peschel is one of them for the Monster K Factory team. He's currently up to P16 after getting 13 positions. Roland Cooklane is another as well. 12 positions gained. He's in P18, pushing his way through. Here's the stats for Gali and Kaczynski. Again, more fresh tyres. Both tyres on the left-hand side of the kart. You can see the gap is fluctuating between the two of them. You can see that nice and close. You can see both of them gaining positions. Only Gali with just one. Kaczynski with 4 places gained in this. So certainly having a very strong superheat here. Looking to start well for that final. Still a fan of Olin Gali's helmet there. The Iron Man inspired liveried helmet going through with the gold and red. There's a look at the superheats. These are the points. So these positions will determine where they're going to start for the final later on. At the moment, Lloyd can't be beaten. Turney's doing everything he can, but of course, when he had that penalty, it dropped him below where Lloyd finished in his race. It was only a P2, a P4 for Turney. Bumps it down by a few points, and there you can see he can't do any more, despite the fact he's winning this one. He will still start on that front row alongside, though. Gus Lawrence looking to start on the inside of row number 2. You'll have Matthew Higgins alongside. And there you'll see as well that you'll have Joseph Smith and Salim Hanar running out the 3rd row of the grid. But that's at the moment. In terms of the championship, Thibaut Ramekers, who is in this race, is currently running around in 17th place. Ramekers scored no points in the qualifying heats phase. At this point as well, I don't think he's going to score any points in the superheats phase as well. And with Joe Turney adding another 22 to his name, they sit just 2 points apart. Joe Turney, at the end of this superheats phase, will take the lead of the championship. Off the track goes the VDK, unfortunately, the 309 of Matt Corby, who was delivering brilliant results over the course of this weekend, is going to try and get it restarted, but it's slowly puttering away, and he's out of this race, and it's not going. Eyes on the battle here, though, as it's still kicking off in the background there. Matviev and Konsani battling away as Costa tumbles down the order a little bit. That's around the P10 area right now. Back on this one here, Joe Turney still leads. McLaughlin there in 2nd place. Now, if McLaughlin goes to the overtake, this doesn't affect anything for these drivers in terms of the intermediate classification. In fact, if anything, it does help out McLaughlin a little bit. So McLaughlin, it is in his best interest to go for this move. Here comes Salim Hanar. He's coming back on Gus Lawrence. He's got through now. So we've waited quite a while for that fight to kick off. But now we see it again. Still yellow flags out on the circuit. More drivers are coming cropper. We're back to green and racing, which is good to see. Whereas we're on lap 11 of 15 in this race. Down the hill into hairpin number 1. Nothing here from McLaughlin. He's going to stay behind. But again, for McLaughlin, getting past Joe Turney will benefit him. Only a little bit, but certainly will help him out. There, a look at the stats again. Both of them fresh tyres on the left-hand side, both in the same boat of that one. Joe Turney, though, starting it on pole position, has gone flag to flag so far a lot on this weekend. He is trying to do it for one more time here in this one. There, McLaughlin, a gain of 3. Certainly had to work hard over the course of this weekend for Finn McLaughlin. Not had the best run of the weekend. 24th in time qualifying for the Irishman. And he just recently signed with the Red Bull Junior program. As there you can see some of the replays there. Elliot Kaczynski trying to get his nose down the inside of Asher Oshtein and the CRG. Not going to happen. This was Matviev down the inside of Anakin Sani. Sani going a little bit wide than the rest of the CRGs coming through there. I think Matteo Giacardi gaining those places. Turney now has been saving, I think, these tyres for these last few laps. You can see that McLaughlin was right there on the rear bumper, but he's just deployed a fastest lap of the race, has Joe Turney in the lead of this one. The gap's opened back up to now 0.4 of a second, and McLaughlin, I think, is on the back foot here. Salim Hanar, who has got back past Gus Lawrence, has helped himself out a little bit still in the points. Still there 6th in the intermediate classification as we keep an eye on this lead battle. Turney, McLaughlin, Hanar from Lawrence, Kaczynski and Gali. Van Langendonk is back in 7th place. He's got ahead of Luna Flusha. Flusha still having a brilliant race in this one. 6 places gained. pushing up the order. Other big movers. Kansani, Yiri Peschel again, now up into 13th. That's good stuff from Yiri Peschel. Started this one P29. He's now below the cutoff area. He's going to really try and get into that final, but that's going to be easier said than done. Just needs to gain a few more places. Lawrence here, all over the rear bumper of Salim Hanar. I think Lawrence here kind of knows that, you know, we don't need to worry about this position too much. Yes, okay, P4, but it's only a superheat. It's not that important for us. He still sits third. If he gets past, it's not going to help him out in the IC because Turney is some 60 points ahead in the intermediate classification. So if Gus Lawrence is sitting there in third, getting past Salim Hanar does not benefit him at all. He will still start ahead of him. This battle here, though, Finn McLaughlin has been hunting down Joe Turney for a while, and he goes for the move over the bridge. There, down the inside, goes Finn McLaughlin. He wastes no time, and he takes the lead of this superheat. Turney, for the first time this weekend, does not lead a race on track. Now, this doesn't affect Turney at all. Turney is fine. Turney will still start on the front row. No drama for him at all. But McLaughlin, this helps him out. Now, he at the moment sits still 7th. Salim Hanar has well, a fair few points ahead of him right now. Now, Salim Hanar does fall down behind Gus Lawrence. This does help him out a little bit, but he's starting to break away now as we go on to the final lap of this race. But Finn McLaughlin's been helping himself out. Helps him out in the championship a little bit as well. Gains a few more points as he goes through. There's the move again. Over the bridge and down the hill. No drama there for the Irishman. And I think, yeah, Turney is just wise to it. He'll say, hey, I'm not bothered about that at all. I'm going to save it for the final. But, well, let's see if Joe Turney's going to give it up, actually, because he's launched onto the back, and now McLaughlin's gone defensive. So, well, he's forced the hands. He's forced the hands on Turney right now. So let's see what happens as they make their way through. Oh, dear me, this is very close through the Mike Wilson complex. It's not going to happen, though. Finn McLaughlin, he's all good. He'll exit out of the final corner, and he's fine and clear. He will start with inside the top 10 for the final later on today. But Joe Turney will gain good championship points there, will now lead the championship points going into the final later on, ahead of Thibaut Ramekers, and he will start on the front row of the grid. Joe Turney, so far, has been the one to keep an eye on, the same, of course, as Freddie Lloyd. But it will be Freddie Lloyd and Joe Turney starting on row number 1. Gus Lawrence and Matthew Higgins on row number 2 for the final. Joseph Smith from Salim Hanar rounding out row number 3. Finn McLaughlin and Scott Lindblom will round out row 4. Van Langendonk and Werrell will round out row number 5 for the final. There's a look at your provisional classification at the end of that one. McLaughlin from Turney, Hanar from Lawrence, Galley, Kaczynski, Van Langendonk, Flusha, Matviev, Kutsani, Peschel. From Ramekers, Giacardi, Costa and Cooklane in the top 15. Peschel, Kansani and Roland Cooklane, big movers in that race as they tried to get into that final later on. Have they done enough, though? Loveaway Sam Budler finishing in P16 from Guy Albag, André Dupé finishing in P18 from Davide Bataro, Tom Luyer from Adam Garcia, Mika Lamasquare finishing in 22nd place, Radek Favre from Gabriel Kernigan finishing in 24th place. Harry Hannum from Noah Wolf, Tom Dussel and Marcus Shilkunas round out the 28 finishers. But a lot of names there at the back of the grid will mean that quite a few of them will not make it into that final, including Matt Corby, Dan Ginchard, Jensen Burnett, Dominic Simek, Zach Drummond, who's on the cusp of this one. He might be okay. A retirement here puts him on the back foot, but he might start well down the order in that final. Vivek Kantham, Vengar Clemenson and Pedro Hiltbrand are other drivers that will find it very challenging to head into that final later on today. That'll be coming up very soon. As there you can have a look at the back of Joe Turney's kart, and there the tyres very close, and Nice shiny exhausters there as well. Here's a look at the highlights there. Zach Drummond, disaster for him at the start of this one. Not what you wanted to see at all. He was due to start it on the fourth row of the grid, and he wouldn't even get to go away. The same as Gabriel Kernican. He also had drama on his opening lap, or the warm-up lap, I should say. He went backwards. Now, the start of this one, keep an eye. Vivek Kanthan, Pedro Hiltbrand, Bosch into the wall there at the start. Both of them out. And I think both of them out of contention for that final as well later on today. Top 3 breakaway then happened at the beginning of that one. Joe Turney clear at the front of that one, would hold on to it for the majority of it. Salim Hanar with that huge oversteer moment. Incredible kart control to keep that on the track. Then we lost a smattering of drivers. This was, I think, the likes of Ginchard, Burnett, Simek, Drummond, Kanthan, all around in that area. All getting caught out in that one. Some drivers getting restarted. Marcus Shilkunas being one of them getting restarted. There was another driver who had a spin, a very unfortunate moment. Noam Wolf going no further in this one, and I suspect will not make that final later on today, which is a big shame for the young Briton who has won British titles here at this very circuit. There, Lawrence down the inside got back past Salim Hanar. Salim Hanar later, though, would fight back as Dmitry Leontiev getting the moves done in the early stages. This was Salim Hanar getting back through as the drivers went on to lap number 11 of 15. That would stay the same. Salim Hanar for Columbia and the Prema Racing team certainly looking strong in the second half of the day. This was the change for the lead. Finn McLaughlin coming in over the bridge. Turn his rear left tyre there. What's it looking like? A little wobbly, was it? Has it come loose, actually, in that race? I'm not too sure. It didn't look like it was fully... it looked like it was okay, but maybe a little bit of drama there. Well, clean-up operation underway as we are going to take a short break now. Do not go anywhere, though, because the finals for the Champions of the Future Round 5 here at PF International are moments away. Stay tuned for that one. If you're watching on YouTube, this broadcast will end. There'll be a brand new one for the final, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. If you're watching on Facebook or motorsport.tv, your broadcast is uninterrupted. As you can see, the upcoming events are coming up very, very soon. So we'll take a short break. We'll be back in a few moments' time.